Hey everybody, it's David R. Becker here with BeckerArt, and today we're going to be doing a beautiful snowy scene for the holidays. And so I was able to do it this today in class, and so it turned out okay. There's a few things I want to talk about, and it's always neat to do it twice. A lot of times when I don't do it twice, there's always a time when I'm doing things with you guys then. So we basically figure things out in the afternoon on Thursday. And so in the evening, I know what to do to make it better. And today, like we always do our little taste test, I found this, it's called Buzzball cocktail. I was getting gas one day and I went in to pay and I was like, okay, what is that? And so we're going to try this. It's called Buzzball Cocktails Forbidden Apple. It's a cocktail. It's not beer. Normally I done the beer, but I said this year we're gonna do some different things. So I'm just gonna see what. Oh, look at it, it's green. So this is basically it's. I guess it's a vodka drink, a vodka and apple and lemon juices. So cheers, everybody. Here's to the buzz balls. Not bad. It's basically a cocktail. And so I'm gonna give that. I'm not a big fan of apple. It's like an apple, green apple kind of drink. I'm gonna give it a 9. It's pretty good. So cheers, everybody. Cheers, cheers, cheers for the buzz balls. Buzz ball. So about a 9. It's good. All right, so let's get on to our regular scheduled program. And so here we have our supplies. And so our supplies are my Holbein watercolors. And like a lot of times I don't use all of them. Just because I have them on there doesn't mean I use all of them. But those are all the ones on my palette and my brushes. And of course, you can get those on my website. Let's go to our website real quick, which is BeckerArt.net or David R. Becker. Don't forget the R in my DavidRBecker.com. All right. And so, and sign up for my newsletter so that you know what we're painting every week, anybody who's new here. And so let's go right to our value sketch, our value study, I mean. It's not a sketch, it's basically just my way of looking where my darks and lights are. And today in class, I was really talking a lot about the two most important things, and one of them is the drawing. That's number one, always has been, always will be. Drawing is so important. And then the second thing I think is very important is the design of the reference that you're using or what you're going to be sketching, what you're going to be drawing, and knowing the big lights and darks. Big lights and darks meaning black and white. I don't, like I said, the middle tones have to be to one side or the other. And this actually becomes pretty decent value study. And I know the tree here is very dark, but I'm going to put a little bit more snow on these trees than is on them. It's up to you. You can make it look just like the photograph, or I'm just going to put a little bit more snow on these trees. I like the look of having it really kind of packed with a lot of snow, like when you first wake up in the morning and fresh snowfall, and you have all that little, big mounds of snow over, especially pine trees. It looks really cool. So I'm going to show you what I did in the drawing end of it, and actually what I did this afternoon. So good pattern, and that doesn't mean that this is ever going to be black. I bet people think a lot of times when you're using a value study that I make it black and white, but this is just my darks. Those are my darks. It doesn't mean that they're going to be that dark, but those are my darks, and they have to be not as light as the lights, and the darkest light can't be as dark as the lightest dark. If that makes sense. And so let's go right to our tabletop. And so here's what I did this afternoon. And so as you can see, I put a lot more snow on the trees than in the reference right here. With the reference, you see there's not much snow on the leaves, on the branches, and so I just put a lot more on there. I just wanted to show you what I did this week in my newsletter, and I want to do a little more of that. And the water is reflected, so you can see in through the water, and then also reflective to the sky. Now look at when I did these trees. I kind of, because I had to make them up, I had to make up the snow on top of them. So if you look, they're too perfect. Look at how perfect they are. In nature, look at the trees in the photo. They're never perfect like a Christmas tree. It's like I made them too nice. I mean, they're too much, just like a Christmas tree. So I'm gonna try to make it not. So I drew it a little bit better this time and made it look more realistic and not like something that I just made up and made it all like Christmas trees that I should even put lights on them. But so I'm gonna break them up a little because in nature the trees are not always so perfect. There's a branch hanging out way over here and stuff like that. So That's one of the problems I had with it. And another one was that I used white at the end instead of using the transparency of the snow of the paper. I went in with white paint afterwards, and that was just because I put too much dark in an area, and then I just was, we were just figuring it out. And so this time, what I'm going to try to do is not use as much white, but I will try to maybe use some white. And this side is light, and that side should be dark, which I didn't do either. So those are things that I just looked at afterwards, and this part of this ice or snow is in the water, kind of underwater, but I made it a little bit too dark, I think. I would have left it a little bit lighter, but other than that, we're going to kind of go with the same thing. So welcome everybody, and it looks like we have some new people. Hey, Ski Kayak, is that your name? Hey, Caroline, Susan, Ann, Kathy, Carol, Sue, and Tina. Thanks for stopping by. And this should be a fun one. I'm hoping that this is a fun one for you. We're going to see if we can do it transparently first, and if we don't, and you see how my drawing is much more detailed, because I want to know which is the snow, and all of the snow on the top is always rounded, especially when you want it to be thick snow. It'll be rounded on the top, and then on the bottom can be a little textury, because it kind of goes into the pine needles and the branches then. But the top part, always the top of something, like the top of that should be kind of fluffy and round and just, like I said, if you want to paint it just like the trees that are here and just with a little bit of snow on them, that's fine too. Just, you'd probably be doing more of you could put masking fluid on top of that to keep the white, or put a light blue over it and then put the masking fluid where you want the top of the snow to be. But look at a tree like this has so many little branches with white. So I would suggest using white paint. It's just that much easier to do that. All right, so let's get started. And the first thing we're going to do is our lights, right? And so what is our lights? The snow, the sky, and parts of the lake or river or whatever that is. The river right here is light from the reflection, but I'm just going to do the sky first, and I'm going to go right through the trees, because if you look, excuse me, if you look at the trees, they're darker than the sky, right? So why would you go around them? I'm just going to go right through them. Now, if I wanted to keep the side of the trees light, I could put masking fluid there first, so that they have a little bright light maybe on the side. That's if they're really small little whites. But I'm just going to use white paint. I found that I actually like that look, and so I'm just going to wet over everything, wet over the whole top of my paper here. And I'm using a single sheet. I'm not using a board or a panel. I didn't glue it down to a panel. This is Stonehenge Aqua cold press. And again, it looks so dark. It's a little bit lighter. Okay, so I'm gonna go in with some Verditor blue, because that's kind of a nice violet blue for the snow. But since it's a sky, I'm going to use some ultramarine, some turquoise, and now it's all wet, and so I can just, have fun with the sky. Make it kind of light, and I'm going to kind of just drop it in there. If I'm going over the trees, I don't care about the trees right now. They're going to be darker in the sky. I'm going to kind of let this go from a darker color on top. A little bit darker. And I always go 20%, 25% darker than you want it, because it's going to lighten up. I like when it kind of does its own thing. I like when I go in there and I just plop it down and let it just run on its own and see what it gives me. That's a nice thing about the watercolor medium, is that a lot of the soft edges and the floatiness of the paint makes its own kind of designs and stuff, and I really like that about watercolor. I like putting a puddle of water there. We just had an a Lake Region Watercolor Guild had their meeting today, and we had a demonstrator, and I wish I remember his name, John Haran, I think, something like that. But anyways, we had him, and he did abstracts, and it was so neat to see how loose, and he let some of the students, or not some of the attendees, paint part of his painting. He'd just go up there and make different things, and very neat how loose he was, and how he let everybody be loose with with his paintings and let him come in and do a little wash. And all right, so there's my sky to make it kind of interesting. I'm not following the photo. I'm just following my idea. I want to make it dark to light, and I kind of want it to be just, like kind of loose and kind of. I'm not going to do particular clouds, like that. I'm just going to make it from dark to light, basically. And since I'm just going to go into the snow here, and I just noticed there's like these shadows on top of the snow, and they're still my lights. They're still part of the light. And way back here, I think it's a lake back there or something, or a hill. But I'm going to go right through this and just kind of put that back there. Maybe a little lavender, a little lavender in there. Give it a little purple and put that behind these trees. Again, these trees will be darker, so this is going to be, I'm just going to make this soft edged. If you have questions, please let me know. And then underneath here, right away, I'm just going to put on the underside of the snow, or on the side of the snow, the top of the snow banks and the trees and stuff, they're going to be light. And then like this one here is light, but down here underneath, we're going to put the shadow in it right away. And so a little lavender, a little light blue. I'm just going to kind of go in here. It's okay to have a hard edge there too. I mean, it's nice to have soft and hard. So what you can do is you can go like this, put it on hard first, and then take your brush with a little wetness in it, and then just hit a little bit of water on there to make it soft. Put a little water, clear water on there, and so you make a little soft edge. The top is going to be light, right? And so that's going to be nice and smooth. The bottom part can be not as smooth. And I'm just going to put a little violet lavender in there. And I can make this a lot lighter too, and soft edged. Always the bottom part. The bottom part, as it rolls over, it's like a rock. When you do a rock, the top is light and the sides are darker. Not a real lot darker, just enough to show that there's dimension to it. Here, I'm going to make this a little bit darker there. That was so anywhere there's a top lit up, go on top of it with the dark. Like right here, I'm going to put a little dark right there. And that way I go around the hard edge. And this is where I can use that Vertitor blue, because that has a little bit of purple in it. It's a good color for snow, Vertitor blue. It's a Holbein color. Vertitor blue. And here I just put lavender into that blue too, into horizon blue. And what else blue did I use? Ultramarine, a little ultramarine. And don't have to be exactly a certain color blue. I mean, a lot of people really want a certain exact color, but I find that, use colors that you like. I mean, use any blue, it's going to look like snow. And it's only looking blue, I do the snow blue because the sky is blue. If the sky was like an evening sky, then I wouldn't be using blue for this snow. I'd be using more violets, reds, yellows, that orange. Probably not so much yellow in the snow. But if the sky is yellow, then it's going to be yellow into the snow too. Hey, Mary Beth. And right away, I'm going to just put this little reflection into the water here. It's fun doing snow scenes, and I always forget to do them in the summer because you never feel like I always do them around Christmas, and when January comes around, I always seem to do them then because it's starting to snow, and today was the coldest day of the year so far. It was really super, super cold today. And then there's like these little snow-covered bushes and such, and so I'm going to put a little bit underneath there. All right, so there's my lights. Basically, my lights are done. And this is a little bit weird right here, but that's okay. So now what we're going to do is wait for that to dry. So while that is drying, I can't do the middle tones there. So I'll do my middle tones darks in the whole big area here, the water basically. And so I'm going to wet it as I go along. I'm not going to wet the whole thing just with water and then go back. I'm going to wet it as I go along. So I'm just going to go here. Knowing that this is going to be a dark certain color, I'm going to have to kind of know what color I'm going to use because that's going to be reflecting into the water. So you kind of got to pre-plan. You got to pre-plan the colors. and that you're going to be using later on in the painting. So here I'm just wetting this little area, and I'm figuring I'm going to use back here. I could use a little bit of, let's say like a violet. Using a little opera here with lavender. And then a little bit of maybe red. Maybe a little bit of warmth in violet. And like a grayish color in here. Because what I'll do is in back here, I'll make that a little bit warmer and make the foreground cooler. That is the thing you can do. And then maybe I can have the sun coming through here on this side and have this a darker part of that tree. That's the only time you really, it's okay to use a warm background and cool foreground, because the shadowing would be very cool in the foreground. So check out some paintings by other artists who do winter scenes. You'll see a lot of times have a warm background. And I will put a little green in there too, because there is greenery underneath the pine trees. It's a little bit kind of greenish. So maybe green, purple, blue. Let's see. A little violet. Soften that edge. Always, I was at a party this last weekend, a Christmas party, at one of the owners of the Main Street Gallery, and her and her husband paint, and I was in their studio, and I looked at how many thousands of paintings they had. Literally, if you're not doing thousands of paintings, I can see anybody who is really accomplished, you go into their studios and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of paintings. And then the same thing when I went down to see their studio, I was just shocked at how many paintings they had. And I mean, I have right next to me here, I have 2 cases just with my watercolors demos I do like this, and I'm sure there's over 1,500 or 1,500 of them. So it's just, you have to realize that you just can't do one painting once in a while to become very, very good. You have to just spend some time, and it doesn't have to be doing watercolors. You could just be sketching. You could be doing whatever, but you need to every day just try something, but just be involved with sketching, painting, doing Christmas cards, do them like originals. Just take do one tree, practice one tree like this, and then just put it in the middle of the card. But that's a way if you can still not have to, do a whole painting, but just learning how to do certain things with the paint. But be involved, and I've proven it now too. I've had a couple of people who I've mentored, and they worked every day for 2 years, and boy, they are just like professionals now. And so it helps to just work a lot. And it doesn't always have to be that you're doing a painting like I'm doing right here. You can just draw. You can just do all kinds of things. Just be involved in sketching, drawing, trying things, trying new mediums. But there is no shortcut. That's one of those things that, I worked in a job in the city where I worked every day on storyboards, and I was a storyboard illustrator, and that's what I did for 35 years. I did drawing every day for storyboards, and that's how I got kind of quick in painting, because I had to do the storyboards very quickly. So you learn how to do those things. And so now what I'm doing is I went from speaking too much, and now realized that I'm doing this background right here when I was going to do the whole area here. But now that I know what the color was that I want to use, then I can go down here and just put that color into the water. Because I didn't quite know what I'm going to use, and so I kind of figured it out by using this blue, a little bit of lavender, and then what did I use? A little bit of orange, like a little bit of reddish orange, like a burnt sienna. Made it kind of more gray-like. And then I'm just going to put it down here. And down this middle here is going to be blue, because the water has to be light right here. And then both sides, down here is going to be dark, and over here is going to be dark. So I'm just going to wet it to there now. But sometimes you have to figure out what you're going to use and what colors you're going to use up there. And so I just went right up there really quickly to see what color would look good right there. And I think it came out with a decent color there. Now, if I wanted to have white on those trees and snow on the trees, And I can put it back in maybe with white paint, or I should have done beforehand and go around all that, but like putting mascoid, but that would be too much putting mascoid there. So now a little bit of blue from the sky. I had ultramarine up there and this other color here, turquoise. And so I'm going to put that down the middle here. And I'm making my brush across like this, see, crosswise, because I need it to look like it's laying flat, the water. You don't want to put it like on an angle like this. Just always flat and, come down. You can go on an angle like this, but your brush should always be nice and level. So let me do a little bit more ultramarine down here. And then this area over here is really dark, and so I'm just going to kind of go over that with water at first. And I could do that later too and make it a little bit harder edge right there. Or just go slowly here and just get this stuff wet and then work it and then put dark colors in it while it's starting to get dry. So then I'm just going to put a little bit darker, and then down here I'm going to put very, very dark. I'm not at that stage yet though, but I can, I can do that. I can establish a darkest dark. Because again, this is going to be dark, dark, and then right down the middle is a nice light from the sky above. Hey, Fred. All right, so this is really wet right here now, and I'm going to do my soft edge, and I know I'm going to go really dark with this area here, so I'm going to pick up a really nice dark, let's see, a dark purple. It's going to be kind of warm, and, well, I'm going to have to go with a really dark blue, so Prussian blue, nice Prussian blue, and then turn it a little bit green because the green from the trees, and then because you can see into the water, you're going to get some brown in there. So I'm just going to put some brown in there too. So a little bit of these three colors. I used violet, Prussian blue, and some brown, or it makes it brown. Look how black it's starting to look. Put a little bit more blue in there. So now watch how dark this is going to get. And this is wet, so it's going to bleed downwards. But that's okay. And now since it's wet, I'm going to get all the moisture out of my brush by just putting it onto paper towel, onto the towel here. Not paper towel, it's just a regular towel. And then I'm just going to kind of bring it down and then get some really hard edges. Now there's hardly any water in my brush. I'm getting pure pigment. And that's one thing you can do with a Holbein. It doesn't dry hard, so you can pick up really thick amount of pigment. And see how I'm going to go back and forth like this, and I'm just going to kind of follow the tree and then bring it in. I call this the Z's. The Z, you go back and forth like a Z, like the letter Z. This is all wet, so it's just going to float in there. I go around my snow bank here, and then I'm going to manipulate this wash. I'm going to put some red in there to make it look like you can see into the water, because you can. In the picture you can see through, and you can see actually rocks down there. So I'm going to take a little bit of orange. I'm just going to put little hits of like rocks and such, and I will also, once I have this wet in the wet, I'll go back in and I'll take a little bit of light color of this blue and run it into there too, because it has to like it's running, and so you're gonna have some bubbles here, but I can do that later. I don't have to do that right now. I can just get the edges first. Get a little bit darker. And they have to be nice and sharp edges here too. Make them nice and sharp. And underneath here too, this is starting to get dark down here. And you'd think you see reflections from the sun or from the snow down into that, but you really don't. Look at the picture. You really don't see reflections because it's moving water. When water is moving, you don't get as many reflections. It's not like a mirror then, because it's moving, and so it disturbs. Like when you take a mirror and it's like frosted, you can't see anymore, right? Because there's ridges in it then. So when it's rigid, when it's rigid, you won't see reflections. You'll just see dark into the water. And so I'm gonna wet this and look into the water and get some of the warmth and the rocks in there. And they're kind of orangey. And so I'm going to go in here and just put some rocks in here. I go with the middle tone first. Now this is kind of brownish. That's okay. I'm going to use thicker paint. Put a little bit thicker, some red, some orange. Put a little purple in my orange to make it more brown. And this is not the darkest dark in here yet, because what I'll do is I'll cut out the rocks with a dark shape. I'm going to use my round brush. So I'm going to be drawing with a round brush so I can go in there. And I'm going to take like really dark colors. So I'm going to take a really dark purple, blue, and red, or this burnt sienna. And then I'll go in there and look at the picture, and I see there's like I'll do this soft edge, or I can do it hard edged. It depends on what you want to do. I'm just going to go in here and get some of the edges of these rocks down there. And now I got too much water, so I'm really not getting any edges, and I didn't use enough paint. But that's okay, because I can go in later and get the really dark, hard edge darks. And it'll look like rocks in here then. And then this tends to be a little bit more blue. So take the blue that's in the sky, because it's the sky color that's going to be reflecting into the water. And then we have some little waves, and anywhere the water hits the edge of the shore, that's where it's going to be really dark. It ends up being really dark right there, because it's like dirt. It comes up to the dirt, and the dirt looks really dark. You can do that anywhere it hits the water hits the edge. I learned that from John Pike. I looked at his paintings, and he always had these really dark spots right where the water hits the edge of the shoreline. Okay, so there's pretty much our water. We don't have the reflections yet because I still have to get to those. But now my top is dry here and my sky is dry, so I can go and start doing the lightest color of the snow, basically, is what I'm going to go off of first. And for that, I'm going to use this brush that's really rounded and really a bad brush. But like I said before, if you want to have like these little blobs, I don't want edges on them. I want a round edge, and by using a brush that's worn, it gives you a nice. Well, this one's too worn. Oh well, I don't have a like, save your worn brushes that are like so you can make the round edge. I'm gonna take a blue from the sky color, because again it's white, and then I'm just gonna go in here and just paint the snow. And it may sound weird, but that you're doing it blue, but it's a darker color. And I'm just going to paint the snow, not the branches. I'm just going to, everywhere I did this round circle type of thing, or like an oval, and kept it soft on top, I'm going in there and just making the snow darker than the sky, because it is darker than the sky. And where it's going to be lighter than the sky, that I'm going to do later on with white paint, because I didn't put masking fluid down, and so I can't go back in and keep it the white of the paper, because that's too hard doing that with the whole, putting the whole big wash of the sky in there. So here I'm just putting in the snow, and see, I'm just doing like little rounded blobs, and I'm keeping some light areas. And these parts where I drew the actual branch there, those are going to be so that you can just put a dark there. That's going to be the dark branch, but right now I'm doing the light parts of the tree. Light parts of the snow, not the tree. This is the snow on top of the branches. And you can even use white with your blue, and then float it in there. It can be wet, because you can make a lighter blue by adding white to your blue. And so you'll make a lighter blue. And so I'm just going to use a little bit darker. Though it's darker than the sky, though. That's one thing you got to remember. It's darker than the sky. You can also keep some white of the paper too, as you're doing this. Keep the white, the lighter color that's not white, because you went over with the sky. And again, like I said, I will be putting in white paint at the very end, just because I enjoy that look. There are some people that are totally against that, and that's fine. There's other ways of doing it. You can definitely do it other ways. Masking fluid, keeping keeping it dark. Now see this blue and that side on this side, it should be the same. So that was a little bit of this color. So I'm going to put this in the background. So it looks like it comes through that area. And I'm going to put white paint on top of that. So here I'm going and just putting in the snow using Verditer blue. A lot of Verditer blue I'm using right here. And as it gets down here, it's going to get darker. The color of the snow is going to be darker. So I'm going to take a little bit more purple in there. And I'm just going to kind of cover this all completely. Just with the snow. I'm not going to worry about white being down there. Make it more light blue. Light blue. And just wet it, and then I don't need white down here because this is a dark area. Remember in my value study, this is a dark area, so the snow will be dark down here, and I'll be putting more branches there than snow anyways. All right, and so this color over here, I can go back to this color, which was a little bit grayed down blue. And gray down your blue, always gray down with like a warm orange. That's your way of grading down your blue. And violets. Violet, you put a little violet in there. Now let's go over on this side and get this tree, same like I did on this side. I'm first getting the snow. Hey Sherry, Mary Beth. Hey Maria. I have some more of this apple vodka drink. Cheers. That's actually not bad at all. It's like apple cocktail. But the things you find that people are trying to sell you. And so a little bit. See, I'm kind of going through this all, making it more Christmas tree like, where it's too perfect. Again, see, I did that there. Here I decided not to. See how I went back and forth, and so it's a little bit different than this one. That again is too perfect a tree. I mean, look at the tree in the picture. It's not that perfect like that. So let's tone that down a little bit. That's too nice a tree. In nature, branches get taken down or they fall off, or something happens. They do grow weird. All right. So there are as the lightest or middle tones of the snow. And so now we're going to go into our dark details, because I did my large darks here, and so those are done. And so I'll go now with details, dark details. And I will start with a really dark bluish purpley green, if that makes sense. So I'm going to take Prussian blue and some quinacridone gold. Look how green that is. It's really bright. It's really, really dark green. And I'm going to put some purple in that just to tone it down so it's not too purple. And look at how dark that is. That is like really, really dark. And so now what I'm going to do is go underneath what I just put down on the bottom of the trees. And if you watched my newsletter, this is kind of the same thing I did. And so you're going to give it a shot. And the top of the snowbank, if you're doing the top part, that gets rounded, and underneath can be kind of textured. The top part, there's negative painting the top of the tree, that can be rounded, and then on the bottom you can just do little needles and branches and trunks of the tree. And you don't have to do much of this, and keep away from the blue you put down. Just keep away from that. You don't need to touch that because you already have that as your snow. And then like I didn't do like the picture was there. I kind of went away from what the picture was. The picture was more thin branches, a lot of thin branches with a lot of less snow on it. But I'm putting more snow than branches. But I'm still putting enough branches on here, and see, I'm just kind of going in there, getting each individual branch. And it's nice and dark, and here put a little brown in that. It's just a really dark. And if I just would use even one color with black, that would work too. I don't have to worry too much about the color of that. I just need to get it nice and dark. Nice and dark, because this is my part of my dark color scheme. And you can put some blue in there too. You can get a little bit more blue and a little bit brighter green. But in winter, you usually don't get really, really bright yellow green. You know, that's not like grass. You don't get grass. Everything's kind of dyed up for the winter. So I'm going in here and I get a little more darker, a little bit darker again. And I use my brush to get the look of, and I'm also going around over here and going to tops of the tree to get the top part of the snow rounded again, and the under part that's more textury. So there's a tree right here, and there's a lot of dark down here. I'm just going to pick up a lot of dark colors, and I'm looking at my picture, and I'm going to let these be lighter, and have these go cross over as the dark part. And so let's go more and more here. I used to do a lot of Christmas cards. I used to make them up, every one of them original, like a small little card. I would do like 50 of them and send them out. But then after 1 year, I decided that's enough. I did too many of them. I was getting, they were hard to do that many. Now here I'm going to put a little bit more white in my blue, the same color, but just make it a little bit lighter with white. It's still negative paint, or it's still transparent because I put a lot of water in there. There's a lot of water here, and so it's still transparent. But anyways, I was doing those cards, and I finally gave up because they were too hard to do that many. But it really taught me how to do these trees, because I did so many of these pine trees that you start just doing them like, you don't even draw them, you just put them in with the snow, and then you put the darks underneath there. Now here we have a lot of dark greenery, and so this is where you can maybe use that new brush I was talking about. You can use this brush, the sword brush, or the dagger brush. I can go in there and just get, like, I can just go back and forth and get a bunch of leaves and branches and such, and so it gives it kind of a texture look. You know, you can it's just basically I want to get texture, and so this is a great way of getting texture with this brush, because it just falls apart, you know, and you're going to get all different kinds of things. It kind of looks kind of like pine needles too. This is where you do the nervous shake. You shake your hand a little bit like you're nervous. And so we'll keep that there, and then go back. What I'm going to do now is take a darker blue and separate these two trees. Like there's one light tree down the middle here, and so over on this side, I'm just going to make that the blue on that tree that's snow. I'll make that darker first, and then I'll go in there and get the really darks in there. So kind of just get this a little bit darker over here, and then of course go in with your darks again, your really darks. And this one, I'm just going to make it a little bit, not like this up here didn't get covered with snow. And then I'll put a little bit of snow here. This can also have a little bit of snow. So again, if you want to follow along and do exactly like the photo, that's going to take you a long time, because you have to do a lot of branches. Where this is, I'm making it up kind of as I go along, and just putting wherever I put the blue for the snow, I'm just going underneath it, and so I'm kind of making this up as I go along, but still trying to differ the tree from this being a dark tree, and this one having a little bit more snow on it, and the one in front. And so what I'll do is I'll do the darks in this tree a little bit lighter and fewer, so it's covered with more snow. And this one can be darker again over here. If you have questions, please ask. I love questions. And there is no dumb question either. It can be whatever you want to ask. And if I tend to put too much dark in, and I lose some of the snow that I wanted to put in there, I'll just put white paint back in there later. I'll get it back. That's one thing you can do. You can just get it back later with white paint. And it won't look overworked because I'm using it for a purpose. It's like the look of the snow. So you're actually, and that's what oil painters do to get snow on top of their dark. They work with darks first, and so they put the dark tree underneath, and they put the snow on top of that. Or watercolors do it opposite. We work with lights first, but that doesn't mean we can't do it afterwards. I mean, we can do that too. Let's put a little thing here. All right, now we're over on this side. And I also want to mention that I am not doing as many workshops next year, but if you want to take one of them, I'm doing one in Santa Fe. The one in Santa Fe is going to be in the Hilton right downtown Santa Fe, and it's 5 days. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful workshop. It's going to be 5-day one, which I haven't done a 5-day in a long time, but we're going to do a lot of things in that workshop. It is not a plein air. It's inside, but I'm sure in the evening we'll go out and have some fun in the evening. So if you can join me in Santa Fe, look at my website for the dates. And then I do have Dillman's again, but this year I'm only doing Dillman's once. Normally I always done it twice a year. This year it's only going to be one time. And it'll be watercolor and gouache like I'm always using now. And then, of course, Florida. My one is almost full, so that I think you'd have to go to the villages. The one in St. Augustine is I think almost full. But you have to do those because I think it's only about 3 or 4 that I'm going to do next year. I'm going to be planning on doing a lot of plein air events, and so that kind of cuts into my teaching time. I will still always be doing these though. You can always just watch here. I will always be on here. All right, so see how beautiful that tree is, but look at how again it's too perfect. I don't like making perfect trees. It's like it's a perfect, look at that line. It's just like the branches you put in on a Christmas tree, a fake Christmas tree. Oh well. Make it a little bit more unperfect. It's just nice to have it not so perfectly in place. Now this has to be a lot darker in here, but as I'm waiting for that to dry, we can just get this part done here. And so these trees right here, I'm going to do a little bit lighter because they're farther back there, and I want to make them look a little farther back. And again, these I'm doing more snow covered. They're more snow covered than they are just raw branches with no snow. So that's what, when you're doing branches that are like this with blue, that means that's the snow. That's not the branches. That's the snow on top of the branches. I know I keep on saying that, but it's two different things. Either you do the branch dark and then put a little bit of snow on them, or you put a lot of snow on them, like I am doing. And it makes it look more winter wonderland if you're putting a lot of snow, right? And here I'm just going to do a little bit dark, a little bit of texture. And so just going to put little dots here and there. Or the nervous twitch. Do the nervous twitch where you're like going shaking. I'm still talking to Cheap Joe's. So that may be my 4th workshop at Cheap Joe's in Boone. They had asked me to do it, but I haven't gotten back to them, and so hopefully I'll be doing one in Boone. I don't know the dates of that one yet though, because I just haven't talked to them since last year, or beginning of this year. And here we're going, and so I'm just putting these darks here where I want in front. Let's make a little bit of dark on this left side of this trees. And now let's get a little bit of this darker parts of the snow down here. Like underneath the snow, there's little cracks of, you can see into the snow what's underneath, the rock underneath, and here there's a little, And I'm at my detail stage, so go ahead. You can go and do detail now too. And the more detail, the better. I mean, if you see all these little things, that's fine. Put them all in. Put everything in. Basically, this is my center of interest over here, so I got to be really careful with all this stuff here and really work a lot of it in this area to make it look really detailed. And let's get that green back. Let's get that Prussian blue. So Prussian blue, quinacridone gold, and violet. I put the violet in that. Kind of dulls it down, but makes it a very rich green. Super dark green. And I need my darkest dark and lightest light to be in this area right here, because that's my center of interest area. So that's what you do. You put your lightest light and darkest dark in those areas. And then maybe there's some weeds growing up out of here and there. And get the shape back of your one tree compared to the other trees. Underneath here, get a little dark. A lot of it can be just, again, nervous twitch. Put in there nervous twitch and it'll look fine. A little bit more of violet. So it's almost like black. You're almost making your own black here by doing that. Tree branches. And I will be putting, like I said, I will be putting light white in there and get some of the snow back. And then you can even spatter a little bit to make it look a little bit not so uniform, everything. And also if you want to make it snow, you can do that too, which I will not do because I want to make it nice and, like, during the day, clean. So here, all these little rocks, we'll do little rocks and stuff here. There's a lot of little things happening, and sometimes you can make it all really smooth. And that's fun too, making it really smooth with just no imperfections in the snow. But this one I'm going to do a lot of imperfections. Just go in there and get a lot of little things. Because in the photo, there's a lot of things happening in here. So, you know, put whatever you can put in there. That's fine. As long as it's the area of light, you keep it light. Worry about that more than anything. Worry that you're staying with your value pattern. That is one thing you cannot go away from. You have to stick with the value pattern. What's in the dark has to stay in the dark. What's in the light has to stay in the light. It doesn't have to be black or white, but it has to be darker than what the has compared to the white light area. I'm just going to go here, do some darker parts underneath the where on the bottom part of the snow. On the left side, I'm going to make it a little bit darker. Doing a little dry brushing here now too, where you take your brush and dry brush it a little bit across the pattern of your snow. See how you just put a little texture in there. This Verditer blue is a super blue for snow shadowing. It's a really nice color for snow. See, I'm just dry brushing over that a little bit. Now let's get some really darks down here. Take a little bit of brown, because there's something really dark over here. And definitely blue. You gotta put blue in this because the shadows are blue. Because my sky is blue. And when the sky is blue, it reflects into the snow with a lot of blue. If the sky was a different color, you'd make it a different color. You know, whatever color the sky is, that's what you then use most of. And these make great Christmas cards. I mean, they make awesome holiday cards. Just anything, you know. And you don't have to do a whole scene like this. You can just do with one of the trees. Or maybe just one tree with a small little river. You know, you can do a bunch of different things, versions of this. You don't have to do exactly this whole thing. Do parts of it. That's what I did when I did my my scenes. I would just do a different version of this scene, you know, 50 times. And so I do 50 cards, a different version of this. And those shadows across here. Here we can just put some Shadows going across from maybe there's branches over here that are just showing shadows. A little more lavender on this side, so that this side would be a little bit darker of this. Maybe shadow. Okay, I think we're ready to do the rest of our water. So the water, like I said, I'm going to go darker now with it. And I'll do some rich colors. And these aren't even not dark enough. So I'm going to go in there with a really rich dark. Super, super dark. Even some black in here. Crack it in gold. Dull it down with maybe a brown and violet. Maybe a little bit of red. So I want to do some really dark, dark parts in here. Look how thick that is too. That's okay to do it thick if you want to do like a branch and maybe the trunk. And at the same time, I'm going to take this branch here, which is really, really dark. I will be putting back white into that area. Put a little bit of white in there too. But I'm going to now reflect this into the water. And just do lines. Do like these little short little lines. Again, really, really, really rich and dark. It's my center of interest. So the darkest dark goes right here. The lightest light goes there. And don't be afraid of putting something really dark. Like this is very contrasty, but I need contrast here. Put a little color in there. Put some red with the green, which is will make a brown. Those are complements. And this is kind of textury too. I put a little texture in there, that's fine. I will be putting a little bit of light blue across of that too. I'm going to put a little bit of that in here now too. I'm going to go around some of these rocks that I did before. Remember I said I was going to do some rocks? So I do the top of the rocks light, negative paint that. Put the top of the rocks are light, the side is darker, and it goes to the next one in front of that. And at the same time, you see the glow on the top of it. And that I'm going to do with opaques. I'm going to do that with opaque, and though again, if you want to do it with not opaques, then you have to pre-plan that pretty well, so you can use masking fluid or paint around it or rub it out. You can also rub out like a little pattern of the blue sky in the water. So let's take a little bit of that blue sky and watch. I'm doing a little bit thicker. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it over the top of a dark color, but because it's kind of opaque-ish, it'll give me a little bit of that color from the sky. If you keep it wet, then it's okay too, because it will give it a soft edge, and it'll look opaque or look transparent, even though it really wouldn't be because you're making it thick. Yeah, I am not the perfect teacher when it comes to doing perfect transparent washes anymore, because I really do like the look of opaque colors in watercolor. I like both. I like opaque and transparent, so I like to use both of them now. I feel it looks a little bit like oil painting when you get done with some of them, and some look very transparent. I think a lot of plein air painters are doing that, you know, watercolorist. Because we can, you know, because it doesn't matter if it's transparent or opaque. And all right, so next thing, and I have 5 more minutes, 6 more minutes. What I'm going to do is now use white, and so I will use white. I'm using gouache white, actually. I put gouache white on a fresh new thing of gouache white here. And so what I'm going to do is first do the whites, and so up here I'm just going to kind of, remember I said I did the dark sky, and so I'm going to put a little bit of the top part of this snow, make it a little bit lighter. And mostly on the left side, or I mean on the right side, because that's where the light is coming from, the right side here. And And again, this you would have done with masking fluid. If you want to do it transparently, you would do it with masking fluid. And this is very opaque. This is actually gouache paint. You can use watercolor paint too. That's white titanium. I'm using titanium white here. I'm getting the right side of this. Again, this is too perfect. I keep on forgetting about that. Like, let it go out a little bit farther and let it be unrealistic. Don't make it look like a pine tree or a Christmas tree that you put together during Christmas, where you put section A into section B. Or all right, so there's some nice little whites. And then down here, I'm going to mix it with a little bit of blue. And so I'll make opaque. I'll make my blue opaque. And then I'll go in here and get some of this that I feel I missed or I want to get back. But now it's opaque. It's not transparent whatsoever. So I mix the blue and making it thick. And gouache covers really well because it's ground more finely. And so I'm going in here and just getting those lights. Even the blue parts back again. And I like the look, and so I'm going to be using a lot of that. That's the way I like it now. And you can do whatever you want. You're the artist. And then also with the water, remember I said with the water, what I'm going to do is take the water, make it opaque, and then I'm going to do these little lines, little Z's over here now. A bit of white. And I'm just going to do the little waves. And also little dots for, a lot of times in water, it sparkles when the sun is above. And you're going to get a lot of little dots when it's breaking up the water. So you get little dots here and there. And then you get, especially when the sun's on the side, it's really, especially right here in the picture, you see there's a little bit of light coming through here. And so I'm going to put a little bit of dots in here, little Z's. Remember the little Z's I talked about? Little Z lines. And now, is there any? See, even here, there's a little light colored little waves. When you get a wave or a breaking of the water, it turns white because it's churning, and so it's good to make it look like it's broken up with a little bit of white. Or when it hits the shoreline, you get a little white little dots and stuff. And there's sparkle. There's a lot of sparkle in water. Especially when the sun's hitting straight above you, you can get a lot of sparkle. So, and those are going to make some really white ones too. But don't put them in the shadow. That they don't belong there. They belong in the light area, right where it hits the dark area. And also when it's churning, when the water's churning and moving. This got too many here, so I'm just going to take a little bit of dark. All right, do you see anything I missed? I'm looking. You know, also, this could reflect in here, too. You could do that, too. You can just reflect a little bit of that tree. You know, you can go like this and just kind of make it look like it's reflecting a little bit of that. Dot it up a little bit. And then last but not least will be the couple of these little branches here. On this tree, there's some branches going up into this little bush here. Darks. Tap them off a little bit. Here maybe a little bit darker. Maybe a few little grasses coming up out of the ground here. Weeds, old weeds that are there. All right, I think that's it, guys. Another Thursday, another painting under my belt, and so let's make it under your belt too. Let me see what you do, and just definitely post it on my Facebook page. We'd love to see it. And if you have any more questions after tonight, please ask. You can ask in the description. You don't have to ask it at the chat all the time. You can go into the description afterwards. It gets sent to me email-wise, and so you know, that's it. So hope you guys have a chance to do this one, and don't be afraid of using opaques. It's okay. Nobody's going to arrest you. No police are going to arrest you. And so until Sunday, On Sunday, well, I'm not sure what I'm doing on Sunday, but oh, one more thing. I just saw one more thing. Fast thing. I just saw I didn't do the reflections of the trees back here into the reflection. See, there's a little reflection right there. This one right here. There it is. Perfect down. All right, guys. We'll see you on Saturday. I mean, not Saturday, on Sunday. And we'll see what I'm going to be doing then. I'm sure it's no more snow. We've done like 3 things of snow now. So it'll be something not to do anything with snow. And keep warm, everybody, if you're in the Midwest here, because it's going to be cold the next